Hi, my cosmic Taurus. Have you ever wondered why, out of all the moments in time, you found yourself here, right now? Let me tell you a truth you may already feel in your bones. There are no accidents in the universe. If this video has reached you, it's because you're being called. Not just to listen, but to remember. Today's message is not a simple horoscope. It's a whisper from the universe, echoing through your intuition, inviting you into a deeper alignment with who you truly are. Because this, right here, right now, could be the moment everything begins to shift. The astrology of April 3rd is powerful, layered, intentional, and filled with meaning. It's a turning point for Taurus. A sacred pause. A breath between endings and new beginnings. And whether you're feeling tired, confused, hopeful, or just curious, you didn't stumble here by chance. This reading is a mirror, and what it will reflect back to you today might stir something you've long buried. Old patterns. Financial loops. Emotional attachments. Dreams you've shelved for someday. But here's the sacred truth: someday begins today. There is a path unfolding before you. And the question isn't, can you walk it? The real question is, are you ready to return to the version of you who never stopped believing? Because Taurus, you've been strong for so long. You've endured. You've pushed through. But now is not a time for force, it's a time for alignment. Not control, but clarity. Not sacrifice, but soul. This is a space for you to breathe, to receive, and to reconnect with the wisdom that already lives inside you. And before we begin, let me take a moment to express my deepest gratitude for you. Your presence here, every like, every comment, every subscribe, is not just support for this channel. It's a sacred connection to something greater. Eternal Mindfulness is more than a channel. It's a soul family. A sanctuary. A movement. And you being here means more than you know. So thank you, from the depths of my heart, for choosing to be here today. Your energy fuels this space. Your curiosity activates the message. And trust me, dear Taurus, you'll want to stay until the very end. Because what the universe is revealing today, it's breathtaking. It's intimate. It's meant for you. Now tell me, what brought you here today? What truth has been knocking at your heart? Drop it in the comments and let me know. Let's anchor your energy, and open the gates to the next chapter. Sometimes, life whispers through the smallest shifts, the tilt of a planet, the hush of a new moon, or the subtle ache that rises in your chest when something deep within knows it's time to change. Today, on April 3rd, those whispers are growing louder. The moon, in its sacred movement, is brushing through the signs that awaken clarity and truth. Venus, your celestial guardian, is gently aligning with Saturn in a rare and powerful trine. It's a moment suspended in grace, a cosmic invitation to build something that lasts not through force, but through foundation. This is not merely a forecast. It is the unfolding of a deeper rhythm within your own being. Venus represents beauty, connection, and value. Saturn, often misunderstood, is not here to restrict you, but to teach you how to ground your desires into form, how to make love and purpose real, how to make them last. When these two planets harmonize, they encourage you to look honestly at what you truly want, and to ask if you've been planting your life in fertile soil, or just somewhere familiar. In this energy, truth becomes unavoidable. Like a mirror catching sunlight at just the right angle, something hidden may now be revealed. The Tower card reflects this precisely, not as a punishment, but as a moment of liberation. Structures that no longer serve your growth may begin to crumble. But you are not crumbling with them. What breaks now is not you, but the illusion that kept you small. It's natural to feel fear when faced with the unknown. But that fear, when held gently, becomes a doorway. That's the wisdom the star brings in next. She reminds you that after every fall, there is light. After surrender, there is renewal. And healing isn't always loud. Sometimes it arrives like rain after drought, soft, quiet, and exactly what your roots have been longing for. The Hierophant follows closely behind, not with answers carved in stone, but with a question: are you willing to become your own teacher? His presence in this reading calls forward a sacred stillness. A knowing that truth doesn't shout. It arrives in silence. In devotion. In the gentle rituals of daily life, in the pauses between breath, and in the moments when you choose what is right over what is easy. What you're experiencing now isn't chaos, it's clarity arriving through the unraveling. And while it may not feel comfortable, it is deeply intelligent. Just as a flower cannot bloom without first breaking through the earth, you too are being asked to expand beyond what's familiar. Not by abandoning yourself, but by returning to yourself fully. Consider this: nothing can be reborn until it's been released. In the same way the sun rises without being asked, your own awakening is not something you force, it is something you allow. You don't have to strive for truth. You only need to stop resisting it. Let the structures fall. Let what's heavy collapse. Not because you failed, but because something wiser inside you has chosen peace over perfection. Let this be the moment you no longer carry what was never yours to hold. There is a sacred unfolding here, and you're not late to it. You are right on time. The energy surrounding you is not pushing you to become more, but inviting you to return to the part of you that always was enough. The part of you that knew, freedom doesn't come from control, it comes from understanding. And love doesn't bloom from fear, it blooms when you trust the soil of your own becoming. So breathe. Trust the shift. And remember, what feels like falling apart may be your very first step toward wholeness. Not every connection is meant to last a lifetime, but every connection teaches us something about the way we love, and how we receive love in return. If you found yourself circling the same emotional loops, wondering why certain bonds feel unfinished or why your heart still echoes with someone's name, then today's alignment holds something sacred for you. On April 3rd, the energetic space around Taurus becomes tender, open, and quietly magnetic. It's a time when love, true, nourishing love, doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It responds to readiness. When we speak of being ready to love again, we often look outside ourselves. We scan the horizon for someone new, someone exciting, someone to fill the spaces left behind. But what if readiness isn't about adding someone new into your life, but instead about removing what no longer belongs? This isn't about pushing feelings away, it's about honoring them, feeling them fully, and allowing them to pass like clouds across the sky. The heart doesn't let go through force. It releases through awareness. The cards drawn today, the Two of Cups, the Ace of Wands, and the Queen of Cups, speak not just of love coming toward you, but of the quality of love you are now able to receive. The Two of Cups reflects harmony, reciprocity, and soul-level recognition. The Ace of Wands sparks a passionate new beginning. And the Queen of Cups asks you to listen, truly listen, to the voice of your heart, without judgment or urgency. Taken together, these energies are not simply about romance. They're about emotional maturity, emotional courage, and the deep inner cleansing required before something new can truly arrive. There's a quiet teaching that says we must empty our cup before we can receive fresh water. We can't pour tea into a cup that's already full. In the same way, your emotional space must be cleared, not out of bitterness, not with regret, but with deep compassion. If you are still holding on to someone, even quietly, even unconsciously, that energy lingers in the spaces where new love could enter. It may be a memory, a conversation that never finished, or a version of you who still waits for closure. Whatever it is, you don't need to erase it. You only need to release your grip. Sometimes we believe that letting go is a betrayal of love. But it's not. Letting go is the ultimate act of respect, for yourself, and for the journey both souls needed to take separately. You can thank someone for their role in your story, and still turn the page. And often, that is where true freedom begins, not with another person, but with your choice to no longer cling to what hurts. A simple ritual can help you mark this transition. Write a letter, not to be sent, but simply to express what your heart still carries. Say everything you never said. Let it be raw, honest, unfiltered. Then, in your own time, burn the letter. As the paper curls and turns to ash, imagine the space it leaves behind, not as emptiness, but as possibility. A garden that has finally been cleared for something beautiful to grow. When you love yourself fully, you don't just invite love, you become love. And from that space, the universe responds. Not with noise, not with drama, but with someone who meets you where you already are, whole, healed, and deeply open. That kind of love doesn't rescue you. It reflects you. And it begins the moment you decide that your heart is no longer a waiting room for someone else's return, but a sacred home, ready to be lived in again. It's easy to believe that stability means safety, especially for Taurus, whose natural rhythm leans toward security, comfort, and building things that last. But sometimes, what we call stable is really just familiar. And familiarity can quietly become a cage when we stop questioning whether it still serves us. The patterns we carry around money and work are often so deeply ingrained, we forget they're even choices. I work hard. I pay bills. I save. I still struggle. Sound familiar? That loop isn't laziness. It isn't failure. It's a belief. One that says abundance must be earned through exhaustion, or worse, that comfort is only available to those who never stop grinding. But the universe doesn't reward burnout. It responds to alignment. The Eight of Pentacles shows up as a symbol of your dedication. You're showing up, staying late, learning, giving your all. And still, the Five of Pentacles lingers, that sense of lack, of being on the outside of the life you desire, watching others succeed while you wonder what you're missing. Then comes the King of Pentacles, the embodiment of mastery over the material world, not through force, but through wisdom. This isn't about having more. It's about understanding your relationship with enough. Many people carry subconscious beliefs that wealth is for others, or that joy must come after struggle. These stories are inherited from society, from family, from generations who lived through survival and passed down their fears as truths. But here's the radical shift: you are not here to survive the same way. You are here to rewrite the pattern. True abundance doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing what's true. There is a difference between effort and alignment. One depletes you. The other energizes you. One fights against the current. The other flows with it. And this shift, from proving your worth to embodying it, is subtle, but life-changing. If you've been operating from a place of fear, fear of losing, fear of not having enough, fear of letting go of control, know this: fear contracts. Gratitude expands. And every thought you think about money either invites it closer or pushes it further away. When you wake up and say, "I have to work hard to get what I need," you're speaking lack. But when you affirm, "Money flows to me with ease, consistency, and gratitude," you're aligning with the truth that abundance is not something to chase, it's something to receive. Daily rituals can help retrain this energy. Start your morning with a money affirmation that feels true and expansive. Write it down. Speak it aloud. Let it imprint into your subconscious. Then, ask yourself, how can I raise my value today? Not to prove anything, but to embody the worth I already carry. That might look like learning a new skill, reaching out to a mentor, pricing your work honestly, or simply resting, because rest recalibrates your frequency, too. Physical objects can support this shift as anchors. Citron, known for amplifying wealth and joy, can be carried in your pocket or worn as a gentle reminder of your intention. A small energy coin or symbolic item in your wallet can serve as a placeholder for the abundance you're calling in. Scents like cinnamon or peppermint stimulate the senses and shift the mindset into alertness and receptivity, perfect for focused manifestation. Remember, wealth is not just money. It's the energy of having, of feeling supported, resourced, and at ease. And when you start showing up with that belief, life mirrors it back. No more loops. No more proving. Just presence, clarity, and the courage to believe that being grounded in your worth is more powerful than any hustle ever could be. Sometimes, the most profound shifts begin not with action, but with stillness. After all the doing, all the striving, all the planning, there comes a point where the next step forward doesn't require more effort, but a pause. On April 3rd, Taurus is gently called inward. Not as a retreat, but as a reset. The energy in the sky supports reflection over reaction, silence over noise, and listening instead of explaining. If you felt emotionally tired, mentally scattered, or like you've been giving more than you've been receiving, that is your inner compass signaling it's time to come back home, to yourself. The Hermit appears in this reading as a gentle guide, inviting you to turn down the volume of the world and turn up the volume of your own insight. It is not isolation, but incubation. There is a difference between being alone and being with yourself. The Hermit reminds us that there is wisdom in solitude, that answers don't always arrive through logic, but through quiet observation of the present moment. When we learn to be still without needing to fix, explain, or understand right away, something ancient in us begins to stir. A knowing that we're not broken, we're just remembering. Then comes death, a card so often misunderstood. This is not about endings in the dramatic sense. It is about the surrender of a former identity. The version of you that clings to old labels, outdated stories, roles you've outgrown. It's time to lay those gently down. Not because they were wrong, but because they've finished their part in your journey. Like a snake shedding its skin or a tree releasing its leaves, this process is natural, even beautiful, if we stop resisting it. You don't need to force a new version of yourself. You simply need to release the old one. The Page of Swords arrives next with curiosity and openness. After solitude and surrender comes inquiry. This is the moment where your mind begins to explore new ideas, new truths, and new directions. But before clarity comes, there must be space. And that space is created by letting go of mental clutter, the assumptions, judgments, and fears that crowd your inner landscape. That's why this phase of your journey isn't passive. It's profoundly active, but in a way that happens beneath the surface. From the lens of numerical insight, the number 9 signals a powerful closure, a karmic cycle completing, preparing you for something more aligned. It asks for reflection, for gratitude toward the lessons, and for readiness to release. The number 3, however, adds a note of lightness and creativity. It reminds you that your voice matters, that your perspective is needed, and that sharing yourself authentically is part of your healing. These two numbers don't contradict, they complement. One clears space, the other fills it with life. A simple practice can support this internal transition. Set aside just 10 quiet minutes. Sit in a space where you won't be interrupted. Close your eyes and take a few slow breaths. Then write down 3 things you are ready to let go of, not just habits or relationships, but emotional patterns, fears, or limiting beliefs. After that, write 3 things you are ready to receive, perhaps peace, a sense of direction, or the courage to begin again. This act alone begins to shift your inner energy. It signals to life that you are awake, aware, and willing. True transformation isn't loud. It's subtle, often invisible from the outside. But inside, it feels like air returning to your lungs after holding your breath too long. The journey back to yourself is not linear. It spirals. And each spiral brings you closer not to who you were, but to who you are, underneath the layers. There is no rush. There is only presence. And in that presence, your next chapter begins. There are moments in life that feel like thresholds, not loud or dramatic, but unmistakably pivotal. You may not even realize you're standing at the edge of one until you feel the gentle pressure to choose. Not just what you want next, but who you're ready to become. On April 3rd, the cosmic energy brings you to that very threshold. It's the quiet crossroad where destiny doesn't demand a direction, but waits for your permission. Because the future is not something you walk into by accident. It's something you claim. This phase isn't about fixing anything. It's about declaring, with clarity, not hesitation, that you are ready to live differently. That you're done negotiating with your worth, done settling for halfway love or halfway living. The Judgment card rises here like a bell ringing deep within your spirit, calling you not to a new identity, but to the wholeness that has always been waiting underneath the noise. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about returning to the version of you who never stopped believing in joy, peace, and freedom, even when you forgot how to name them. Following judgment is the world, the card of completion and integration. It speaks to cycles that are closing, not out of loss, but out of readiness. You've learned the lessons. You've walked the path. Now the invitation is to live the wisdom. This card doesn't ask you to start over. It asks you to move forward, this time carrying nothing that weighs you down. That means leaving behind roles that no longer reflect your truth, environments that dim your light, and stories that told you had to shrink in order to belong. You don't. You never did. And standing with radiant confidence is the Queen of Wands. She is your reminder that choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's sacred. She doesn't wait for permission to shine. She doesn't apologize for what she desires. And yet, her power is not loud or forceful, it's embodied. Rooted. Certain. She teaches that true magnetism comes from alignment, and alignment comes from courage. Courage to say yes to what lights you up, and no to what drains your spirit. Freedom, at its core, is not the absence of challenge. It's the presence of choice. When you begin to understand this, your relationship with life transforms. You no longer see external conditions as the ruler of your experience. You see them as invitations. Opportunities to reaffirm your values, your direction, your truth. That's why affirmations are not just words. They're declarations of energetic alignment. When you say, "I choose freedom," or "I choose a life of harmony," you are not just making a wish. You are setting a course. A single statement can become a turning point. Not because it changes everything instantly, but because it shifts the compass within you. That shift, that subtle redirection, is the beginning of a new chapter that doesn't just happen to you, but with you. If it feels right, take a moment to write down your choice. Not what others expect, not what feels safe, but what your soul quietly whispers when the world is silent. Share it, speak it, anchor it in this moment. And if you're willing, place that affirmation in the comments. Not for me, but for you, as a symbol, a vow, a quiet contract between your present self and the life you're choosing to walk into. No one can make the choice for you. But once you make it, life meets you there. Always. Not because you forced it, but because, for the first time, you finally stopped waiting, and stepped fully into the life that was waiting for you. When you've made it this far, truly made it, not just by watching or reading, but by feeling each word land somewhere deeper than the surface, it means something profound has already begun to shift within you. And Taurus, I want you to take a moment to let that in. Not everything that's real arrives with fanfare. Sometimes, change begins as a quiet breath. A whisper. A simple choice whispered inward, "I'm ready." You are not lost. You're remembering. Remembering the power you've always had, the clarity that was never gone, only buried beneath expectations, doubts, and distractions. And now, gently but unmistakably, you're being called to come back to yourself. Not the version shaped by what others wanted from you, but the you who chooses, who aligns, who believes. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be honest. Honest about what feels right, what feels heavy, what you've outgrown, and what you long to grow into. So let me ask you this: what are you still waiting for permission to become? And who told you that you needed permission in the first place? What if, just what if, today was the day you stopped waiting? What if this wasn't just another reading, but a turning point? What if your story didn't change because the stars aligned, but because you did? Every ritual, every affirmation, every moment of reflection you take from this video isn't just something to try, it's something to embody. Transformation doesn't happen all at once. It happens when you start living in alignment with what you know to be true. So let this be your invitation to practice, to play, to experiment, to remember. Write the affirmations. Light the candle. Hold the citron. Speak your truth aloud. Even if your voice shakes, speak it. And if you're unsure where to begin, begin here. I am ready to live the life I was born to live. Say it softly. Say it boldly. Say it as many times as you need. But say it like you mean it. Because your life is listening. You don't have to rush. Just stay present. You don't have to know the destination. Just take the next aligned step. And as you do, you'll start to notice, your energy is different. Your choices feel clearer. The world responds in ways you didn't expect. Because when you choose yourself, life rises to meet you in that choice. And now, I would love to hear from you. What was your biggest insight from today's message? What are you releasing this month, and what are you choosing instead? Go ahead, drop it in the comments. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to see today. And if this message spoke to you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs a little cosmic encouragement, and subscribe to stay connected with our growing soul family here at Eternal Mindfulness. Your presence here matters. Your energy is felt. Every comment, every share, every click is a thread in the larger tapestry we're weaving together. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for allowing me to be part of your journey, even just for these few minutes. Taurus, this isn't just an end. It's a beginning. A sacred pause between who you were and who you are now choosing to become. And trust me, what's waiting for you on the other side of this choice? It's so much more than you imagined. So don't stop now. The next version of your life begins when you say, without doubt, I choose me.